I'm Nathan Byrd, and welcome to episode 4 of the Byrd Academy. In this journey to become the most interesting, diverse race car driver in the world, we brought the Byrd Academy to Indianapolis Raceway Park, where we're going to be racing the Byrd Motorsports Midget and the Davey Hamilton Racing Sprint Car.
The sprint car, I've only tested it before. This will be my first race in the sprint car, the non-wing pavement sprint car. So yeah, looking forward to it, guys. And just come along with me on this little journey.
There's a few differences between a midget and a sprint car. The way they handle is probably the biggest, especially since in a sprint car there's just so much power that you try your best to put down. Sometimes you can't get down all the way depending on what track you're at. So in a short track weekend like this one, everything happens very, very quickly. You only have 6 to 7 hours to get through practice, qualifying, and race.
Tonight's unique, so when we get everything going, we're going to move quickly.
We started off the day practicing the Byrd Motorsports Midget. We were very close in the setup. The car felt pretty good, but it was a little bit too tight, and then it was a little bit too loose. And we're just trying to get the stagger, the balance between the right and the left rear tires.
When we ran earlier, the 2 3/4 stagger actually felt good, and I think as it got a little bit cooler, I think the 3 inches were being full surprise.
Yeah.
So
when we went out to practice in the sprint car, the car felt pretty good, pretty much right off the rip, and that was helpful for me considering it being my debut. I just didn't want to make any big mistakes.
We'll pop fire on. And then that way you know where they're at, you know you're inside, you have a better idea.
yeah, make sure we can get the stagger right and all that.
And then it gives you a little confidence for speed from your second session.
Makes sense.
In qualifying for the midget, we ended up going out with a little bit of a Hail Mary setup, so we decided to go with a crossweight adjustment. Unfortunately, that threw the car completely outside of the window. For me, it was very hard to drive, and I ended up qualifying 14th, unfortunately, which was not my best showing in the world, but in my mind, it sort of reflected the status of the car.
Super tight off mid-corner exit 3-4, but it was loose exiting 1-2.
Right after midget qualifying, we actually went straight to the sprint car. I was going to be one of the first guys out in sprint car qualifying, so it was a pretty quick turnaround. Ended up qualifying just half a second off pole position. The field was so tight, we were ending up qualifying 11th place out of the 22 car field. So for my first time ever qualifying in a sprint car, I felt like we did pretty good. So despite my 11th place qualifying in the sprint car, I actually ended up starting the feature race in 9th place. Just right off the bat, I was like, okay, the car is very tight. And it pretty much got worse throughout the race. Basically, what that means is when I go to enter the corner and I turn the wheel, the front tires do not react. And I need to slow down more in order to not overwhelm the front tires and have the grip in order to turn the car. If you can't roll a good minimum speed through the mid-corner, you're going to have a very bad exit, or you're not going to have very good straight line speed compared to the guys that can roll a high minimum speed through the corner, which at IRP is everything. Ended up passing a guy for position and gained a couple spots through attrition, and ended up finishing the race in 8th place. Not too bad for my sprint car debut.
Did not turn the car at all. Just had to, I had to be fully off the throttle in order to even get it to turn so I could get on the power.
As soon as I was done racing the sprint car, pulled into the pits, jumped out of the car, I hydrated.
I'm going to tell Glenn, my engineer in the midget, that the track's getting super tight, and I think that'll help us get ahead of some of the field in terms of getting an optimal setup. I think we need to predict the midget's going to be very tight.
And then went right over to the midget to hop in the car, get strapped in, and then we're off to the races, literally. The first 3 laps of the midget race, the car felt perfect. It was rolling a lot of speed through the corners. It was doing everything I wanted it to, and that is never a good sign. As the fuel burns off, and as I ran more laps, the car ended up going from balanced to tight to very, very tight, and eventually it was all I could do to just hang on to the car, and we ended up finishing the race in 12th place. So we moved up a few spots, but ultimately just couldn't get anything really done.
I got a little racy at the end there with that guy, and then he just like, the guy just, he's not tight at all. He just like rolling around the outside, like, okay, show off. I can't do that.
Overall, I learned a lot from this experience racing the midget and the sprint car, especially at a track like IRP, which is essentially the Indianapolis Motor Speedway of short track racing. Talking about the setups with the crews and learning all the things, how the setup's affecting my driving and how my driving's affecting the setup and how everything works in tandem. It's very beneficial for my development as a race car driver, and as my ultimate goal of getting to the Indy 500, doing these sorts of things is going to help me immensely, which is why we do short track racing as much as we possibly can at tracks like IRP.
That's it for us here at Indianapolis Raceway Park, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Byrd Academy. Stay tuned for the next leg of our journey where I'll be racing a Silver Crown car at Worldwide Technology Raceway.